Welcome to the CTA Foundation CES interview series. My name is Steve Ewell, and I'm Executive Director of the Consumer Technology Association Foundation. And I'm really pleased to be joined today by Kyle Rand, the co-founder and CEO of Rendever. Welcome, Kyle. So happy to have you here at CES 2021.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me. It's really exciting to be here.
Well, I love talking about the new technologies that are emerging and really helping older adults, and Rendezvous certainly fits within that space. So for our audience that doesn't know about Rendezvous, can you share a little bit about the work that you do?
Yeah, so at Rendezvous, we spent the past 4.5 years building an end-to-end virtual reality platform specifically designed for the aging population with the specific mission of reducing social isolation through the power of shared experiences. So any group that we work with, we're going to set them up with the Rendezvous system, which is a set of VR headsets. And then they get the opportunity to explore the world, to check off bucket list items, to go back to meaningful places from their past. And they do all of this as a group. And then on top of that, we have a whole staff facilitation that allows people to really drive conversations around each of the experiences, which really builds relationships and connections.
That's incredible, and certainly aligns very well with the work that we're doing at the CTA Foundation, using emerging technology and addressing things like social isolation, which are such critical issues. What inspired you to create Rendever?
Yeah, so I have to be honest in that I really grew up in the aging industry. As a kid, I used to go to a local senior living community and I volunteered scooping ice cream with a few of my best friends. So I had a lot of that growing up. And then I went to school and I studied cognitive decline in the aging population and got to spend a lot of time working on technology with the 65 plus demographic. And then right around the time that my schooling was wrapping up, unfortunately, my grandmother went through the process of moving into a senior living community due to health concerns. And we really got a chance to see firsthand how that transition could impact someone, and specifically from a cognitive functioning perspective. And a few years later, I had the lucky opportunity to meet up with a few other people up at MIT. And we really started thinking about, at that time, VR was just starting to become a big thing, right? New York Times has just sent out Google Cardboards to all of its subscribers. Everyone had plucked their phone in there and, tried their first video. And we really took a step back and we thought, if you think about virtual reality and what this technology can do, you put on this headset and you can go anywhere in the world and you can do anything. You contrast that to a lot of the challenges that happen for those who are 65 plus, especially when they move into a senior living community setting. And really, it was clear that is the perfect technology for us. So, we put our heads together and we went directly to a senior living community and started testing and realized that, as soon as you could get someone into an experience that was really magical and like full of life, the reaction was really positive. But it wasn't enough to just be them by themselves, because everybody else was wondering, like, how do I be a part of it? What is going on? Like, it quickly became an isolating experience that everybody was curious about. And we wanted to build a platform that allowed it to be really a group experience that allowed things like laughter and smiles and joy to happen together. Because, when you think about it, and you boil it down, the foundation of all human connection really is shared positive experiences. And for this demographic, we really need opportunities to give those experiences. And in our opinion, virtual reality is the perfect technology.
That's great. And talk to me a little bit more about that shared experience and how you're able to deliver that through a VR experience. And then, also, certainly this year we've all experienced physical distancing. How has that impacted your business model as far as, working with communities versus individuals?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So luckily going into 2020, we had been working very diligently on a grant funded by the National Institutes on Health and the National Institutes on Aging, looking at evolving the way that we do our typical Rendezvous deployment, which is normally within a senior living community. So typically a senior living community gets set up with our system, which has a tablet where the staff are really leading the session, and then a group of headsets. So every resident puts on a headset and they don't have to interact with the interface at all, right? Everything is directed from the staff, and the staff are able to lead conversations. So that's our typical deployment. But the study that we were doing funded by the NIA was looking at allowing family members to become a part of it. So allowing people who are on the memory care spectrum and a family member who's living in a different state or far away to be doing these shared virtual experiences. And rather than communicating because they're sitting next to each other, we enabled voice communication through the headsets. And I gotta say, it was like really magical, because whenever a session started, the family member would start talking and the resident would hear this voice coming out of the headset, would like pick it up and hold it up as if it was a phone, right? And start talking. And we put it on and they got to do the same kind of shared experiences, but they were doing it with their loved one and they were kind of responding and reacting together and they could hear each other even though they were far away. And then we kind of took that and we took it one step further and we created a virtual living family room space where they could come together as avatars. They'd be sitting on the couch next to each other and waving to each other. And families could upload personal family photos, home videos, and then they would go and they would watch all of these on a virtual TV screen. And it might sound crazy, but during these sessions, we found that the resident and their adult child were spending up to an hour and a half in this virtual family room because really it was the only opportunity that they had to actually sit down together. And so we were doing all of this research, we were finding all these things. And as soon as the COVID-19 pandemic hit, we realized that that same technology and that same approach, really, we needed to bring that into the senior living community. So it allowed us to really, in March, we launched voice communication, we launched group programming from a distance. We changed our business model. So it wasn't only that staff at the communities needed to lead their own sessions. We also launched a Rendezvous Live component in which we had internal team members now leading twice a week full virtual reality programming sessions for 30 minutes in which any one of our 220 plus clients can dial in and all become a part of the conversation, right? So we took the idea of what voice communication could do across VR and really brought it into a big macro network. And it's been received really, really well over the pandemic.
Well, that's really interesting because, you know, we've certainly seen the impact that different entertainment can have, especially in things like memory care. We've seen, you know, the impact of music and things like that. And it'd be really interesting to see how these virtual engagements are able to provide similar types of benefits and the connections that are just so critical for health, but also for just general lifestyle engagement. So that's really exciting. Now, you're developing the software that Rendever's using. Are you developing the hardware as well, or are you using kind of off the shelf?
Yeah. So we're 100% a platform as a service company, and we work with Pico on the hardware side.
Okay, great. Do you have any stories of users that have experienced Rendever and have some great things to share?
I would say that the best part of my job and our company is that we have countless stories, like countless stories. We actually just created a book of stories across the year 2020 because what we've been lucky enough to experience is that Rendever has really been a beacon of light for a lot of the senior living communities that use us, right? It's been a really, really hard year for a lot of reasons, but specifically within this industry. And the ways that we've really approached things have allowed our clients to continue to use Rendezvous, continue to deliver magical moments. And we've just been hearing all these amazing things across the year. So we actually compiled a book of stories to share. So I'll have to send you one of those. My favorite video of all time, we've been doing this for, again, 4.5 years. And my favorite video of all time is the very first time that we visited a local community in Connecticut. We did this really, really big demo with pretty much like, it felt like half of the residents of the communities were cycling in and out to experience virtual reality for the first time. And about halfway through, they brought in this one resident, his name was Mickey, and her caregiver pulled me aside and was immediately like, he started like tearing up right away. And he was like, I need you to understand that this woman has been with us for so long. She was for so long this like beacon of light within the community, right? She was the first person to say hi to you in the morning. She was a big smile on her face. She knew everyone by name, and she was just like this boisterous, exciting, friendly person. And unfortunately, she had been moved into their locked memory care unit. Right? She was diagnosed with early stage dementia, and that transition just really it shut her down. And he was like, it's been months, and I haven't seen her smile. I haven't heard her laugh. Like I haven't had the opportunity to have a conversation with her. Because the biggest symptom that hit her right away was expressive aphasia. So she really lost the ability to communicate. And he was just like, all I want is to be able to see her enjoy life again. And so we put her in a VR headset and we decided to put her directly into a room full of golden retriever puppies. And Steve, I kid you not, it was like magic. It was like the light switch just turned back on. Like all of a sudden, there was this huge smile that came across her face. She started like calling out and reaching out to the puppies and started actually like talking to them in little bits and snips. And it was just like the whole room started crying because really like it was that profound of a moment in which she came back to life. And the best part of all of it was when the session was done, she took her headset off and she had this big look of like astoundment on her face. And she actually followed me and my co-founder out of the building, holding onto his arm and talking about how we really needed to be using this technology for kids. She was like, this would be a perfect opportunity for education. Like, could you imagine learning? And if you really like stop and think about what that means, it means that after one VR session, she went from having full expressive aphasia, really no ability to communicate, to she was pitching us business ideas. And it was like it's still one of my favorite memories across everything that we've done since.
That really is incredible. And yeah, that has to be amazing to be able to continue to see these stories and really see the benefits of technology to provide some of these connections. And it really is such a critical piece of work that you're doing. So that's amazing. Now, I know you're also, you're part of the AARP Innovation Lab startup portfolio. Can you talk a little bit about, how does a startup engage with an organization like AARP, and what are some of the benefits that you see from working with a group like that?
Yeah, so we were lucky enough to be matched with them. We went through the Mass Challenge Health Tech program the very first year that program was created. We were lucky enough to be matched with them, and they were, they saw VR as a really exciting opportunity, and we got to go through the program with them as one of our partners, and it went really well. We actually won the Gold Award that year, which was really exciting, and that really launched a relationship that's been going on for the past 3 years. And we got to do a lot of really cool things together, from content creation to we actually launched a virtual reality app called Alcove that was done as a joint partnership between our two organizations that is available on the Quest store. Anybody can go and download. And it's been an amazing ride. We've done so much, but I think to your question on what is the benefit of working with a group like that, like really there is nobody else in the world who understands the aging demographic better than AARP. And through AARP Innovation Lab, right, they're taking this massive amount of knowledge and policy work and just expertise, and they're really putting their best step forward and a really strong foot forward, and saying that we don't want to just know everything. We also want to create things. We want to create really cool opportunities, and we want to work with young, exciting startups and figure out how we can be a part of the solution creation process. And we've gotten to really create solutions for social isolation, which fast or rewind a few years, like nobody really understood what the impact of social isolation was until AARP really started pushing the policy and information work, right? And that, like the stats that they've pulled together and really put out into the media, right? There's not a single person that I can tell that, the big stat being that social isolation is as detrimental to one's health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, right? That came from AARP. And there's not a single person I can tell that to without having their jaw drop a little bit, right? And so being able to take that massive amount of understanding and expertise and then work together on really figuring out how we can make better products and how we can really make this population, set this population up for success and allow them to age, not just with race, but with a social component within their life. Like it's been an amazing opportunity. And I'm really excited about everything that is to come.
Well, that's great. And it's really exciting to see when organizations like that can come together with startups and result in better products that will help all of us as we age. So really excited to see that work moving forward. Well, here we are at CES 2021. Digitally this year, but we're going to hear announcements throughout this week of technologies that we're going to be able to get our hands on this year, some of the really new, cool, exciting things. But we're also going to have a lot of conversations about what are the emerging technologies, what are things that, 2, 3, even 5 or 10 years from now are really going to be impacting us all and benefiting us all. And this doesn't have to be Rendever related, but are there areas of emerging technology that you're particularly excited about or interested in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a little bit biased in that anything VR gets me really excited. But every year that we go to CES, I think this will be our 4th year. every single year we want to see what's happening in AR, right? There's been a lot of movement in AR, conceptually, but the hardware is still up and coming. And every single year we get really excited about seeing what's going on within the AR landscape and who's really making fast and aggressive moves. So that's what we're most interested in, right? Expanding that VR into understanding where AR is going, where XR might be going. So that's what we have our eyes out on. From a personal level, I love holoscopes, and I'm really excited to see how that technology continues to go. I think that there have been a few really interesting demos, thinking specifically last year, and I'm excited to see more.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're going to see some exciting conversations and highlights this year on all those topics. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where those go as well. If people want to know more about Rendever, where should they go to get more information?
Yeah, so you can find out everything you know about Rendezvous by visiting our website, rendever.com. Follow all of our social media profiles. Twitter, we're Rendezvous Health. Instagram, we're rendever.health. And LinkedIn is our biggest one. Just look us up at Rendezvous.
Well, great. I encourage people to check it out. It's really an incredible technology, and thank you for the work that you're doing. It's a great pleasure to talk to you and have you join us here as part of our CES interview series. So thanks a lot, Kyle.
Thanks so much, Steve. It's been a pleasure.
And for the audience, if you're interested in learning more about the CTA Foundation, you can go to ctafoundation.tech. And I hope you have a wonderful CES 2021.